A relationship with the right referral partner could be a game changer for any B2B company. So what if you could reverse engineer these relationships at a moment's notice? Start a podcast, invite potential referral partners to be guests on your show, and grow your referral network faster than ever. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to B2B Growth. I am your host for today's episode, Nikki Ivy with Sweetfish Media. Guys, I've got with me today Mark Rickmeier, who is CEO of Table XI. Mark, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Man, I'm excited. Like you and I talked about offline, this is a subject I don't get to talk about too often on the show, but when I do, man, am I pumped. So we're going to be talking about why culture needs to be intentional and some of the things that you and the folks at Table XI have sort of put into place and what you're teaching people and putting out into the culture, business culture universe that I'm excited about. But before we get into any of that, I'd love it if you would just give us a little bit of background on yourself and what you and the folks at Table XI have been up to these days.
Yeah, sure. So I started at Table XI, about 7 years ago, and in a very amusing way. So my last company, I had this amazing opportunity to travel all over the world. And literally the day I found out I was opening our Germany office was the same day that my wife found out she was pregnant. And so I came home with like, honey, I've got huge news. And she's like, that's weird. I've got big news. So yeah, that changed my life quite a bit. So I ended up moving back to Chicago and trying to get off the road. And I joined Table XI back in 2011. And it had already been in business for about 10, 12 years at that point. So I joined as the COO and then took on the CEO role about 2 years ago. So Table XI is a design and custom software development company in Chicago. And we get to work with amazing storytellers like Roger Ebert and the Natural History Museum, the Field Museum here in Chicago, large enterprises like Tyson Foods, and also small, more entrepreneurial, mid-sized market companies that are trying to think about how they can innovate on their products and then quickly build something and launch it to production. Mobile apps, chatbots, web applications, some places where technology will have a meaningful impact on their business.
All the cool stuff I nerd out on. I love it.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of fun. To be able to have that kind of creative impact in a business is really, really fun.
Yeah. I mean, you had me at, could you say Roger Ebert? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Like, listen,
yeah.
Come on. I was born in 1981. So that TV show and that whole era of like, I get it. Like that's a tastemaker if ever there was.
I mean, imagine that. So Roger is one of the best critics of all time. If you ever read his 1-star reviews, they were way more entertaining than the 5-star reviews. And when you were doing design work for a man who criticizes for a living, you have all kinds of fun design discussions.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's
one's toes.
Yeah, it would definitely kept us on our toes for sure.
But as for the topic at hand, like you and I talked about, or like I mentioned offline, none of all the rest of that stuff can matter sometimes if we don't get this culture part right. And one of the things that you guys are teaching folks is the importance of making culture intentional and this idea that if you don't try and establish a culture, one is going to emerge or form at your organization either way. So you might as well take control of it. Talk a little bit about that for us.
I think honestly, it affects so many of your decisions. And it's not just like having a company handbook, right? I mean, the way that you think about building a company, the intention you put behind it affects so many of the decisions. Like a great example is, so we were bursting at the seams in our last office just at the time I joined the company. And when I was talking to the founder about building a new office space, I was extremely excited. That's a design challenge that you really want to sink your teeth into. Right. And the room that we built that gave us the most headaches, it wasn't the conference room. It wasn't the room we were asking the clients to jump out of their fishbowl and into ours. And it wasn't the desk spaces. It was the kitchen, which I thought was very odd because it was not my first thought. But consulting is a curse, right? Like you could be 2 desks away from someone else and they're in a different domain, a different code base with different clients. And so you have these natural predispositions towards like knowledge silos, right? In a consulting company, 2 desks away is a world apart. And we knew that. And so Josh, the founder, said, we're going to design this collision space. We're going to ask our architects to come up with a collision space where people can walk away from their desks and break bread together. And so he built out in the designs a commercial grade kitchen with the ductwork and the ovens and things for a kitchen, and a full-time chef that we hired. And like the average lease in Chicago is 5 years, 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And when you leave, they want whatever normal people want, I guess cubicles or whiteboards or whatever, and not ovens. And so most buildings were like, no, of course you can't have that. And this building was the one that let us carve up the space. And so a big footprint and a big expense was building out this kitchen service. But now, every day, not only do we have people that get to work together and collaborate in the kitchen at the lunch hour to catch up, clients always rock up at like 11:30 magically to see what's going on and, spend time with the team. And, when we are doing those heads down design sprints where you're really trying to focus on creating a prototype, you don't lose people that like a half hour to Jimmy John's or to Chipotle in the middle of the day. Like you get to really be taken care of and have that focus. Anyway, it was incredible intentionality behind where we wanted the culture to go at, I would say, considerable expense, but it has such a huge impact on the ability of people to collaborate and communicate. And it set the tone for that intention when we moved into this space, what we could do with the space to facilitate the culture we wanted to have.
You guys had just like the best, most well-developed why behind what a lot would consider a perk like that. I think I mentioned to you offline, a lot of folks who listen to the show know that I cut my SaaS B2B sales teeth there in Austin, which has like a really booming startup scene. And a lot of what you see there is folks that are providing lunch and they have it catered. But a lot of the spirit behind it is a lot different from what you described. The spirit behind that a lot of the time is like, look, hey, we want all of the new grads to come work for us and sell for us. And so you got to have a fridge full of LaCroix. You got to have catered lunches. You got to have those things. It drives me
nuts because I think people don't understand. Like people will say like, oh yeah, we have like a ping pong table. What is that? That's not culture. That's a distraction. And so
I can see how something like this could be easily mistaken for that. Like, oh, we have a chef, but like, nah, this is totally not that. And I'm so for it.
There's a big part. So when people come into the office, clients as well, I love giving the tour. I always feel like one of those like people on the plane that's like walking around and pointing out the exits, but I always try to show everything about the office and why things are the way they are. There's a green pterodactyl hanging from the ceiling, not to be cute or tchotchke, but that was a present from the Field Museum when we went live with their company. And the people were really proud of that. Like there's a lot of intention. There's a story behind almost everything in the office and the way that they are. I think people really respect that level of intentionality in the company and in the growth. It allows our clients, when they sign on, to get excited about working with the team and knowing that they're going to be part of that story.
And what else is cool is another thing I want to make sure we get to, and I know we're going rapid fire here, but this inclusion element, right? Which a lot of folks have as sort of an afterthought to diversity, an afterthought to onboarding, an afterthought to culture. But you guys have a really, again, intentional and unique approach to inclusion with your inclusion meeting cards.
Yeah.
Tell us about this.
Well, that was when I took on the role and that little acronym change, right, from COO to CEO had a pretty big impact on how my interaction patterns were happening. And I suddenly felt this pressure whenever there was a question around what's the go-to market strategy going to be, or what are we doing with sales next year? Are we going to open up a new office? How do we improve diversity in recruiting? I always felt the need to have this vision, to have this inspirational speech to motivate the team and always be the one with this clairvoyant vision of where we're going to be. And as a COO, you're used to asking like, where's next month's numbers coming from? And now people are asking me like, where are we going to be in 10 years? Like, and rather than saying, what are we working on? They're asking me questions like, why are we even doing it? What's our purpose? And the need to have this vision was so overwhelming that whenever we started having a meeting about one of these difficult topics or strategy of the business, I couldn't stand more than a half a second of awkward silence. I had to jump in to be like, and here's what we should do. Isn't it this? I felt this pressure to be this amazingly motivational person. And a friend of mine actually in a peer group said, what are you doing? Like a CEO is not supposed to be some all-knowing oracle. You're supposed to ask really good questions and get input from your team. If you're the first person to answer every question and jump in, it's called an accidental diminisher. You're shutting down the creative output of everybody. You should shut up. And so the challenge that I gave to my design team, because I found this really hard, was could we actually make a game of it where I have 3 opinion cards and I have to carry them around with me all week. And when I burn my 3rd opinion card, I can do nothing but ask questions for the rest of the week. I can no longer state like, this is what we should be doing and get input from others.
Brilliant.
And once we made it a game, then we started thinking about other things we could do to be more intentional about how we were facilitating these difficult conversations. So imagine you're a junior developer on my team, and I put you in a room with the CTO who's been doing this for 20 years. You're probably going to smile and nod with a lot of the suggestions and be like, yep, totally get it. And we wanted that person to be able to challenge and question without fear of embarrassment or fear of rebuke. So we will give them the devil's advocate card and say, like, you are allowed to challenge and question these things. And then to the CTO, who can always be like grumpy and be like, nope, my idea works, and they always knows the constraints, we give that person the angel's advocate card and say, like, you have to yes and everything that you hear in the next half hour and find a reason why someone's ideas might work. Don't just shoot them down because you know better. And so by giving people, and that's sort of like the black hat, white hat thinking that was popularized in the 6 hats business rule. But by making it a game, we found ways to creatively get more discussion happening, more input happening. So it wasn't the loudest voice. It wasn't the CEO's voice that was being heard. It was other good input was being surfaced.
I am stealing this. Like today, full disclosure, no shame. I'm stealing this. I'm stealing this, yes, for Sweetfish Media, but I'm also stealing this as a mom. I don't know if any of you out there, and y'all can't see because we don't use the video in this podcast, but I've been just like making these facial expressions while he's talking, like you could see the light bulb coming on. If you've ever tried to have a tough conversation with a teenager, right? Well, just when you're establishing, right, whose ideas get to prevail and why, a lot of that comes into play. And it's just really, I'm excited to sort of hit her with, all right, I'm going to be the devil's advocate, but I got to shut up after this point. She's going to love it. And I think it's going to do wonders. So thank you for that. And I know you got a hard stop. There are so many other things that I want to get from you really quick. If you could just touch on before I let you go, this retreat that you guys do.
Oh, yeah.
You go on long walks. You do the Table XI Nimble retreats to the end of creating a more collaborative culture, or what is that?
So when I first took on the CEO role, it was pretty clear to me I'd never been a CEO before. And so I actually called up 9 other CEOs, people who do what I do, and some competitors of mine. And in the small mid-market space, we're largely friends as well as competitors.
Sure.
And so I asked them, I said, I'm going to be going, I found this great walking trail in Scotland, and I found a service that would carry our bags because I am not in good shape. And so I was going to go for this long walk and, end up at a bed and breakfast, and my bag would be magically waiting for me when I got there. And so I said, I want to do this experience where we have no Slack, no Twitter, no emails. I just want to have some like dedicated time with some really dedicated people and just pick their brain about like, what is this job and how do I possibly do it well? And so rather than calling it a workshop with lots of sticky notes where you're sitting behind a desk and sedentary all day, we called it a walk shop. And we said, we're going to be on our feet and we're going to be talking while we're out there. And when the trail is pretty wide, we'll have a group conversation. And, the trail narrows down. You have more of a one-on-one conversation. But you have this time to be thinking. And it's very different. Like typically you and I are both sitting down right now and your brain is going a million miles an hour and your body is pretty sedentary. It's interesting to see the kinds of ideas you have when your mind is focused on one thing. Like dinner is 8 hours that way. I got to get there. And then your feet are doing all the work. So you are mentally totally fresh and physically exhausted. You get totally different kinds of ideas. And that was so successful that I've now introduced that to the company as well. And so every few months, we send small groups of people, about 6 to 8, to go off on one of these nimble retreats. And one of the options they can have is going off on a walk shop. And so we have designers and developers and strategists will go off and do this long distance hike where, you connect to something besides Wi-Fi for a change and have just time together.
I love it. You know what it reminds me of? And I'll plug my friend here, gentleman Scott Leese. of Scott Lee's Consulting and of several startups that he's scaled, has a retreat. Also, it's called like the anti-conference, and it's called Surf and Sales. And it's the same idea, right? They go to Costa Rica. Speaking of Costa Rica, they go to Costa Rica, and it is other folks in the space. And they do, they have conversations that folks would want to have at a conference, but don't really get to have because, like you said, it's all business cards and sticky notes.
Yeah.
It's the same idea. So I believe in what is it you're doing. I won't keep you. I know you got a hard stop in 2 minutes. Mark, this was so much fun. I'm definitely having you back on because I have so many more questions about the way that you guys approach this. And it fits in with some of the other stuff that we're doing here at Sweetfish Media in terms of crafting culture and where you guys fit in. I'm a fan. Real quick, how can folks connect with you?
I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and it's where I try to publish a lot and get feedback from the community around things like culture and how you improve the company culture by focusing on inclusion. So I just wrote an article about that card game we made, the inclusion meeting cards. And I've also been and you can actually find some information about that hike. We're actually making it a company, believe it or not. Like there have been enough interest in people going hiking that the Walk Shop is now a small business. You can go to walkshop.io and see about the hikes we have coming up and the community that's building around this concept of getting offline and learning from each other. So I'd say check me out on the Walk Shop or look up Table XI. And I'd be happy to catch up and learn from other people that are doing interesting things in their space. Love it. I'm supposed to be neutral. I'm not supposed to gush over my guests, but you got me. I'm a fan. I'm gonna let you get on with the rest of your day. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. You have a good one, Mark. Talk to you soon.
Hey guys, if you've been listening to B2B Growth for a while, you know we're good friends with Sangram over at Terminus. So we wanted to let you know something really cool he's up to lately. This week and this week only, Sangram's newest book, ABM is B2B, is available for just $1.99. That's right, $1.99, a steal from the regular $14.95 price. And here are a few reasons why you want to check out this book. One, you'll learn stories from 6 companies and the specific steps they took to take their ABM program from good to great. You'll also learn the team framework that Sangram talks about and is time-tested in over 100 companies. If that's not enough, they're giving away 100% of the profits and $10 per review of the book to the New Story charity. So check out the link in the show notes to take advantage of this screaming deal and get your copy of ABM is B2B by Sangram Vajre and Eric Spett on Amazon for just $1.99 this week.